All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alistair Hexx back with you here. Today, I'm not in the hexagon. No, I am getting close to the end of my long week journey in Las Vegas during Wrestlemania week. And of course, I had to get an interview to contribute to the YouTube page. And there's only one person I had in mind to do that. So folks, today with me is none other than the Ringmaster himself, Ryzin. How are we doing today,
I'm doing
brother?
very well, and here we are at Circus Circus. If there was going to be a time for an interview, this would be the place. Las Vegas, Sin City, and of course, Circus Circus.
Oh, no better backdrop when interviewing the Ringmaster himself. And of course, you've been working a handful of shows here. You've been pretty busy.
I have been. I did 3 different events at the early part of the week, and then 3 days at WrestleCon at the Horseshoe in Las Vegas. So I've had a very busy week, and it's been amazing. It's absolutely just. It's always great to come here because not only are you able to compound multiple events, but you also get the opportunity to, mingle with people that you hadn't seen, like I hadn't seen since like my NXT days or AEW or all the different times that I have spanned over my 23-year career.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that I've met along the journey. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to see him again.
Definitely long career there too. And I mean, as you're seeing all those people, I'm excited to see you again. I know we haven't seen each other since last month. CWC, CSW was in the house for CWC versus the World, which of course we had Ryzin on the card. And you were going up against none other than Manny Lemons. How was that match?
Well, Manny Lemons has always been a thorn in my side. He really sours me to my core. And this was our third match in a row for the CWC. And although he did get the better of me this time, I just, even though they usually say the third's the rubber match, I think that our feud is far from over.
Oh yeah, that's one for the ages. It's going to keep going as long as CWC does. That I can be certain. But let's talk a little bit more about you. 23-year long career. Where did it all start for the Ringmaster? Where did we come forward?
Well, full circle, it did start in Colorado. So I started training when I was 17 years old. Rewind even a little bit before that, there was XTC Pro Wrestling Academy out of Westminster, Colorado. And I was about 15 at that point. But I felt like I was a little too young. I felt like I was kind of a proverbial punching bag for the trainees at that time. And so I stepped away from it and then gave myself a couple of years. So then when I was 17, I started with high velocity training or high velocity wrestling training in Colorado. I guess I would say all of the different states that surround Colorado. So you had Colorado, South Dakota, Amarillo, Texas, and everywhere that you could get within like a 6 to 8 hour radius, I was wrestling there. And then once I really got serious about it and wanted to, of course, like everybody else, they have the dreams of being, a WWE superstar or being signed by our major organization. So I was doing extra work, and I had asked William Regal. I pulled him aside and said, if you were me, what would you do? And he said, I would move to Orlando if I were you. So that's all it took. Fast forward about a year later, and I packed up and I moved out east. So I've been in Orlando ever since.
So are you a Colorado native?
Born and raised Colorado native. North Denver, Westminster, born and raised, and then now Floridian for going on 12 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And what promotions do you work out there with in Florida if people aren't familiar with your work?
So primarily the biggest organization I work with is Atomic Legacy Wrestling. I'm a multi-time champ there, and they brought me in as soon as I landed in Florida, and they've been my mainstay ever since. And I've built quite a little career there. And I love Atomic Legacy Wrestling. I would say that they are my home away from home, being Colorado. So, there's multiple promotions. Florida, you could stay busy in Florida working up and down the coast. So there's no shortage of promotions in Florida. It's just a matter of where you want to go. But I would say that was my home promotion.
That was your home promotion? Oh, 100%. Well, and it sounds like that's just one of the many carnivals that Ryzin frequents.
So, I mean, Colorado will always be, my home away from home. I love working with all the promotions in Colorado, not only the CWC, but I frequently work for Battleground in Greeley, Colorado, so opposite side of Colorado Springs, and they always treat me above and beyond, and I love Pete, the promoter there. I love Chad at CWC. So everybody there treats me really great, and but another place is like the OIWA, and what they do is they run multiple different promotions, but their two hubs, I would say, is in Dallas, Texas, where Sir Mo ran it from Men on a a Mission, the tag team Men on a Mission. He just recently passed away. But his partner, Jason Maldonado, he runs the OIWA, and he brought me into WrestleCon, for instance. But I love working for him, whether it be in Dallas, whether it be in Arkansas. That's another great promotion that I like to call. I have worked all of the major promotions in some form or fashion. I wrestled in NXT. I've had 8 television matches with them early in my career, which led me to a WWE Performance Center tryout. That was in February of 2018. And although things didn't pan out the way that I envisioned them, in short order, the pandemic happened, and it ended up leading me into AEW, and where I spent 2 years during what I call the pandemic era. And so that's really where I was able to establish myself to a more universal worldwide audience, was through AEW. But in Impact, a little trivia for you people. I've wrestled once on TNA Impact Television for a title against Drew McIntyre.
Wow. And
to have one television match with Impact and it being for a championship, I think is a pretty nice accolade. And if you fast forward, I can't remember if it was like about 4 to 6 weeks after he had migrated over to NXT, and then I wrestled him one of his first matches back in NXT as Drew McIntyre. So funny, that's another trivia question. I worked them both in NXT and TNA.
And so, wrestling's a family affair.
Yep.
Is there? Do you get a lot of support from your family? Are you married or anything like that?
I'm happily married, and we've been married going on 2 years, and it's been great. But I've been with her a lot longer than that.
So she's familiar with life.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
She's absolutely familiar with the life, and and so great support system there, and that's pretty much all I need. I, have been estranged from my family and things like that. So early on in my life, I was on my own when I was 15. So the trials and tribulations that I had being 15 years old and trying to scratch and claw not only in the world of making it as far as just being able to provide food and shelter for myself, but to try to also chase the dream of being a professional wrestler. So I kind of had the odds stacked against me from the get-go. Speaking of odds,
what would you say some of your favorite accomplishments are? I know you've wrote a book. It's sitting on my shelf, one of my favorites.
Yeah, so that would be probably the most recent accomplishment that I had made, is writing that entire book, which is In Demand Indie, and basically to rewind a little bit more, finding a career in outside of wrestling was obviously important, because if you you need a fallback plan, and that's one of the biggest things that I do preach. When I was young and naive, I said, you know what, as long as I'm going to make it regardless. I kind of had that end all be all, I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
But fast forward to my early 20s, and I realized maybe I should lean into a career. So I ended up, my first I did everything from bagging groceries. I was the Easter Bunny at the Flatirons Mall in Broomfield, Colorado.
Wow.
I worked little mom and pop shops. I literally did everything. I was a jump bunch coach for kids. So I did all these odd jobs, but then I realized I really need to find a career path in case the wrestling didn't work out. And I found my knack in sales, and and advertising sales specifically, where I worked for a magazine in Boulder County, Colorado called Yellow Scene Magazine. And on resume, I had absolutely no reason, no experience to be there. But she gave me a shot, and within a short order, I became her #1 top sales rep, and was, almost like the king of advertising when it came to the publication. So everything went fantastic.
That's awesome. It sounds like you had a great opportunity. You capitalized on it.
Absolutely.
And then as you continue to build that, there's really going to be, I think the work repertoire speaks for itself, and then it kind of precedes you in that way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, any other accomplishments you want to mention that you've...
So In Demand Indie, as I said, is like my love letter back to the wrestling business. So when you talk about doing accomplishments in the wrestling business, the list is a mile long, and I know that, as far as being time sensitive, there's so many, but just a few things wrestling Matt Hardy in a ladder match early on in my career in Westminster, Colorado, for Primos Wrestling in Colorado. The fact that, the Hardys were somebody that, like most every other wrestler in my age demographic, looked and were idolized, by the Hardys. Everything about that, to fast forward, like even in when I was training, they would call me a hardly boy. And
Oh, no.
yeah, me and my partner Jason, they would call us the Hardly Boys. And so to fast forward and actually take on Matt Hardy in a ladder match in my hometown of Westminster, Colorado, is literally a full circle moment of showing people that you can set your mind to virtually anything and accomplish it. And that was almost like my fuck you to those who doubted me. And then so that was a big early milestone, but later in our lives, his and my paths had crossed so much that we developed a friendship out of it. But I had wrestled him in a deletion match, so I'm the only one outside of one of the major organizations that have had a deletion match against Matt Hardy. And then but yeah, I mean, I've had a who's who of those in professional wrestling that I've had the pleasure of being able to step in the ring with. Even people that are doing Mania here, like Penta, for instance, like being able to be in the ring with him, just fantastic. So I've had a hell of a career. As I turned 40, I was like, well, what can I give to the wrestling business? What can I give back? And that book was it. It's literally everything that I've learned over my years of marketing, advertising, how to get that extra work, how to position yourself in such a way that you get a contract, things like that.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant book, viewers. It really is. It's probably one of my favorite things to actually go through and reread, because the psychology aspect on it alone will really give you the proper tips and tools that you need to succeed in it. Some of them I followed myself, which is another reason that you're actually watching this video today. So, no, I really appreciate coming out. Is there something that you're working on? Anything in the works we can know about? Any spoilers for Ryzin?
There's a couple of things in the works that I cannot mention.
Okay, fair enough.
But ultimately, I think that the biggest thing that I want to do is see how far I can progress the rest of my career. So what I really want to do is see where an opportunity may arise where I could get potentially signed, and maybe not just as a full-time employee as a wrestler, but to help on the creative side as well. So
very creative. All right, so going into a normal event day, what does that look like for you? What's your mentality getting up in the morning? Do you have a gear you like to pick out between? What's the routine?
I mean, I'm a little bit of a gear whore. I love wrestling gear. I love all different looks. Poor Trina, she's based in Colorado, actually. I'm constantly blowing her up with my next idea. And I go, okay, this idea is the last idea for a bit. And then, once she busts it out, and she's so good at her craft. And so once she does that, then I'm like, on to the next idea. So I'm already like, ooh, I have something big coming up. Trina, this is the thought process I had. And I'm very, again, creative minded. So I am always designing it from head to toe. And so that's one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is my look. Gear wise, I try to pick the best for the scenario that I'm playing. So, even if I'm a champion of that particular promotion, I'll try to add something with gold trim. So I like to match. And so gold trim and try to add it into the aesthetic for the belt and things like that. So, but that's from a gear standpoint. But I don't tend to eat very heavy day of show, just to make sure that I'm clear-minded and I'm not feeling heavy and lethargic. And then that's about it. I do, I have a system of, just going over my match and making sure that we have everything squared away. But as far as like pre-match routines and things like that, there's nothing specific that I do.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, one of my favorite questions, I always wonder, what is the last thought before you come outside the curtain, when you have to be Ryzin, when it's on, Do you have a transitional thought?
There definitely is a transitional moment. I think that's why my musical intro is so long, because I know that it's introducing me, but it's also on the back end hyping me up. So it's moving me from being Rob into Ryzin.
Fair enough.
And that way, when I go through the curtain, I'm fully immersed in that character. And so that's, by design.
What does the end of the match look like for you? You finish, win or lose, what is your post-match? What does that look like? I imagine you get packed up, say goodbye to everybody. Do you have a favorite food, something you like to do?
So, anybody can tell you post-show, it's next to impossible to get out of, you're saying your goodbyes what seems like forever. Oftentimes you have to do what they call an Irish goodbye and not even say goodbye. You just have to leave, because otherwise you're going to be there conversing with everybody and shaking hands and hugging everybody. And then, 5 minutes turns into an hour, and so on and so forth.
All it takes is one question. You're there forever. Yeah.
And so one of the big things that I do is I like pizza. It's like my, when I have a big show or something, I always like to reward myself with pizza. I try to eat a pretty clean diet most of the time, and that's how I maintain abs. But yeah, without fail, post-show, I always like to get a pizza. Not night of, because I'm always coming down from like an adrenaline rush, or like this kind of an adrenaline high, which keeps me wired through the night. I don't sleep very well after shows. Definitely the next day I like to indulge in pizza to kind of.
And he's a wrestler that cares about his fans too, because before the show, after the show, I can always find you at your merch table without fail.
Well, absolutely. Without the fans, there would be no us. I mean, literally take stock of what's been going on up and down Las Vegas Boulevard. 200,000 plus fans of professional wrestling, maybe more, have swarmed Las Vegas Boulevard. Not even all attending WrestleMania, just because of everything that goes on during WrestleMania week. It's amazing to see. But without them, there is no us. And so I try to maximize my time with them on the front half of shows, the intermission, and on the back half of shows, all while trying to stay in the mindset of, giving them the best show in the ring as well. Absolutely. But yeah, without the fans, there is no us. So I take great pride in not only merchandising myself so that they have something nice to go home with, but to try to spend special time or extra time with each one so that they're not feeling rushed.
Absolutely. Well, and as a fan, I'm always entertained by your shows. I think they're amazing performances. And then as a worker, as someone in the industry, I've taken a lot of good advice from you. And I think really we can end it on that. If you have anything that you'd like to say to up-and-comers, wrestling production people, any last words of advice, I think they'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so the biggest thing would be to buy In Demand Indie, which is available on Amazon.com or anywhere that I am performing. That is the best place to do. And other than that, follow me on social media. You can find me at Hail Ryzin, HailRyzin, on all major social media forms.
And we'll have those links also down here below somewhere for you. But I really appreciate you taking the time, Ryzin.
Awesome. Thank you
You're such a gentleman,
much.
sir. Thank you.